Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'd like to start by letting you know that this webinar will be conducted fully in Spanish. However, we understand that much of the information discussed here today can be valuable for everyone, and that's why we will be providing a voiceover version in English to be determined, but it probably will be this month, sometime this month. We sincerely hope that this initiative will enable a much wider audience to gain valuable insights and benefits from the diverse and shared interests of our esteemed panelists. By bringing together experts from various fields, we aim to foster a deeper understanding and appreciation of the topics discussed, ultimately enriching the experience for everyone involved. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to a productive and engaging discussion in Spanish. My name is Irai Strong, and I am a member of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of the American Nuclear Society. And we are here to wrap up with a flourish in this Hispanic Heritage Month. And today I have the privilege of moderating this conversation. The importance of having a webinar in Spanish about nuclear energy cannot be underestimated. As we propose to triple nuclear capacity by 2050 to combat climate change and meet our growing energy needs. It's crucial to involve all communities in this effort. We have come to the conclusion that the only viable way to achieve our decarbonization and energy security goals is through the inclusion of nuclear energy. We are at a key moment in the nuclear renaissance, where innovation in technologies like small modular reactors, SMRs, and next-generation reactors is transforming the industry and providing safer and more sustainable solutions. Nuclear energy is critical to ensuring a reliable and clean energy supply, and we need a nuclear force, a diverse workforce that will help us tackle these challenges. The Spanish-speaking community is one of the fastest-growing demographics in the United States, so their inclusion in the conversation about nuclear energy is essential. By engaging Spanish-speaking people, we can ensure a diverse, strong, and dedicated workforce, not only to address the climate crisis, but also to advance the nuclear industry in an inclusive and equitable way. Institutions like the Idaho National Laboratory are already recognizing this need by organizing recruitment events in Spanish, which paves the way for greater participation of the Hispanic community in the nuclear renaissance. Before we continue, I would like to take a moment to honor the memory of Dr. John Kelly. He was the president of the American Nuclear Society in 2018-2019, who sadly passed away last week on October 3rd. Dr. Kelly had a distinguished career of over 40 years in the nuclear industry. His leadership and vision transformed the course of nuclear energy, guiding the world toward a safer and more sustainable future. His dedication has left a lasting legacy for everyone in this industry. In his memory, I invite you to join me for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Let us continue to move forward in the spirit of inclusion that Dr. Kelly furthered as we move forward in this important conversation. And before we dive in, I'd like to cover a few logistical points. If you have any questions during the webinar, please write them in the questions and answers section or Q&A, and we will do our best to answer them. During this session, the event is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be emailed to registered participants, and this will be sent out tomorrow. In addition, a certificate of attendance will be available upon request. Please check the chat for more information. We ask all participants to adhere to the Code of Ethics. And the Respectful Behavior Policy from ANS can be found at ans.org. Let's make sure our discussion today is respectful and inclusive. And before we start the panel, I would like to introduce our distinguished panelists. Today, we have the honor of having a group of successful professionals. They are all Hispanic first-generation students, and their journeys and achievements in the nuclear or academic industry are an inspiration to many. They have overcome numerous challenges to get to where they are today and bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to this conversation. We have as our guest Elsa Castillo, Assam Director of Student Success at the College of Engineering at the University of New Mexico. We also have Dr. Luis Ocampo, scientist and principal investigator in the Non-Proliferation Division at Idaho National Laboratory. We have Dr. Marilyn Delgado, a mechanical systems design engineer at BWXT. And we have Shirley Rodriguez, advisor for nuclear science, engineering, and technology at Bruce Mallon, Hamilton. Welcome, everyone, and without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our distinguished panelists to provide a brief introduction about themselves. I invite you to tell us about your academic career, your professional journey, and also how you came to hold your place in the nuclear industry or academic. Each of you has valuable and unique experiences, and we would love to learn more about your journey as professionals, Spanish speakers, or first-generation individuals. And how have you overcome the unique challenges that we face? And let's start with Elsa Castillo. Go ahead, Elsa.
Hello. Hello, everyone. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here, to be sharing my story and also sharing what we do to have more students like Aris over there in the laboratories, over there in all the areas of work, in these areas of engineering and science. Well, I want to share that I am originally from Ecuador in South America. And I came to the United States specifically to learn English because it was super important to be able to survive practically anywhere in the world. And I also came to study at the university, specifically at the University of Idaho, studying natural resources. As a student, it was very hard to have to get by when English is not your first language. But it was something that really pushed me to keep fighting. And also the costs are excessively high. And unless you get a good scholarship to be able to move forward, you simply can't jump into a career. So what I did was basically finish my degree at the University of Idaho in natural resources and the circumstances of fate. They put me in a job because it's really hard to find a job. It hardly comes out when one is practically an international student. And what I did was get a job to support migrant students. And one of those jobs was precisely the University of Idaho has one of the best programs for migrant students. And that opened my eyes to the field of education. Education in science and technology also became my inspiration because that's my area of study. And I came to the University of New Mexico to pursue my career in this field of education in science, technology, and engineering, to be able to help more students achieve their dreams. So basically, my dream became to help other students achieve their dreams. My initial dream was to continue in natural resources, but the jobs were restricted to permanent residents or citizens. So I basically saw the possibility, and another passion that grew in me was to help others. And with that, I came to the University of Idaho. Here I did my master's degree and started working at the School of Engineering at UNM at the University of New Mexico. This university offers a lot of support to migrant students who come from abroad, and this helped me a lot to open up my career and see what I really want to do. And that's exactly what I wanted, to create more educational programs that support students and that can help them get ahead. And that's where I find myself. I've been here at the University of New Mexico for almost 22 years, bringing resources to help students and supporting programs like IRA that help, that we could pass the word to more people around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this story, which I find important. Now let's move on to the doctor. Dr. Luis Ocampo, please, Luis, if you could share your journey with us.
Of course, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here, and thanks to IRAIS for organizing this historic event. This is a very special moment for society. My journey began when I had the opportunity to visit the nuclear reactor at Pennsylvania State University, Penn State. That reactor is a TRIGA, which is 1 megawatt. And when it pulses, it emits a blue glow. When I saw that, it changed my life because I had no idea what I wanted to study. And that was a moment that transformed me. Frankly, from that moment on, I decided I was going to be a nuclear engineer. And after I graduated, after working a bit, I realized that I wanted to know more, that there is still so much to discover in the nuclear world, and I wanted to contribute to that. So as a result of that, I decided to go back to school. I wanted to get a master's degree and learn more about radiation detection. Along that path, I learned about safeguards and non-proliferation, which is a completely different world from what we usually talk about regarding reactors, about engineering itself, about building a reactor. There's another world. Non-proliferation and safeguards. And as a result of that, I ended up working at Brookhaven National Laboratory in New York, where I did a small part of my master's, but I also had the opportunity through the GEM scholarship, GEM, to earn my doctorate. So from there, I was able to participate in obtaining my doctorate and then do a postdoc at Brookhaven and eventually end up at Idaho National Lab, where I currently work as a scientist, principal investigator. Our job there is actually developing new technologies and responses to the nuclear scientific challenges, which are quite a few, especially now that we think about the new generation, the new forefront, the new nuclear renaissance. That brings about changes throughout the entire cycle, right? We have new fuels, we have new types of reactors, new sizes of reactors. What happens to the fuel afterwards? All those questions need to be answered, and the laboratories are really where all the questions get addressed. It is very important to me that our community knows that there is a place for all of us contributing to science in the laboratories, that there are many opportunities. And just as my career has been, this career can also be for everyone, for all of you who are watching and listening right now. I encourage you to consider participating in the labs because it's a very viable career. The pay is incredible. The rewards are incredible. I've had some great experiences, and I think our community needs to learn more about it. So I invite you to ask us questions about that, to investigate further. I am ready to answer all your questions. If we run out of time, that's okay, but know that nuclear science still has a lot to discover and that all of you can participate in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Luis. I'm very excited by the panelists we have here. We now welcome Dr. Marilyn Delgado. Marilyn, could you please tell us about your journey?
Thank you, Irais. My name is Marilyn Delgado, as it says, and hello, everyone. So my story is a bit different. I am a first-generation student. My family is from Ecuador. I was born in New York, so getting into engineering was initially difficult to understand what my story is like in entering nuclear engineering. It's first about understanding how to get into engineering. There aren't many opportunities for first-generation students getting into college. And so I tried to get into one medical school. they didn't accept me. I was looking for the last way to still get into New York University. And well, it hit me that I was accepted to the City College of New York for mechanical engineering. I didn't know much about engineering. I didn't know much about mechanical engineering specifically, but I had the only option to get in there, and they gave me a partial scholarship. And so I got in and said, I'm going to try, since it was my only option to get into college. And I got in, studied, and found that I loved it. The studies, mechanical engineering. And then they entered. I understood that I had a career and I could choose a career where I designed new things. I started studying to do things like test facilities, like experiments. And when I started in that world of trying to do those experiments, I loved it. And I was trying to decide when I was finishing my undergraduate degree. And well, I didn't know how to stand out from the other students who were also graduating. And I started trying to find out what my options were to continue my studies, to stay in engineering, to get a master's degree. And in looking for different places, I found that nuclear engineering had so many options that offered to study for free in one place. I applied to different universities, and well, Texas A&M was a university that was one of the best in nuclear engineering, and I got accepted. I went the summer before I started my master's degree. I studied there. I loved what I was doing, and well, I got in, and the rest I just continued. So many opportunities for me to keep studying and also to continue doing what I loved, which was designing experiments. And well, I have so many other stories about what happened and how I got in and how difficult it was. And I'm here to tell you everything.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. How lucky we are in the nuclear industry, and the paths of life brought us to Marilyn. And well, now we have I ask, please, Shirley Rodriguez, to tell us a little about her journey and her story.
Hello, very good morning, afternoon to everyone. Thanks to the audience. Thank you, Aira, and to everyone for organizing this event, which is the first one in Spanish. I am very proud to be a part of it. Well, my relationship with the nuclear industry or nuclear energy, it started at 13 years old. A math teacher was talking. How powerful was the nucleus of the atom and how much energy could we harness? And so I said, I'm going to be a nuclear engineer, or I want to be a nuclear engineer. And so many years went by, a really long time, because I'm originally from Peru and there's no nuclear engineering program there. So I arrived in the United States and learned English and many other things that we will talk about in a bit. And I finished my bachelor's and master's in nuclear engineering at the University of Florida. I always had the idea of designing reactors. So I started to, and I remember my teacher saying that in order to design reactors, you have to understand their maintenance. So the first thing I did was work in field engineering. So I was going to the maintenance of the reactors to see the systems, how they worked, their dimensions. And after that, I started designing sodium reactors. And now, well, I'm at Booz Allen Hamilton. I'm an advisor for the Department of Energy. And I'm also a spokesperson of the field of nuclear energy. And where do I go? I try to share my experiences and help. I'm a mentor to many people around the world. And well, not to make it too long, if you need more you can contact me on LinkedIn for details. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our panelists and distinguished participants for their invaluable insights, contributions, and continued support. Now, please, I ask you to turn on your cameras because we're going to dive right into the panel. And well, let's get into a very important question here, guys. I would like to start the discussion by exploring the unique challenges and successes that we, as Hispanic students and first-generation professionals, face in STEM careers. And when we talk about, for those who don't know what it means, we're talking about careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In this case, my first question would be, could you share something special about your journey as first-generation Spanish-speaking students or professionals? What were those big challenges? How did you face them and how did you overcome them? Let's start with Elsa.
Okay. Well, one of the biggest challenges I had was English. As Shirley mentioned, as the other panelists did, that English is essential. If we don't have English, we're going to be it shouldn't stop us from the plans we have for the future. We have to do our part. And another thing, English was one challenge, and the other is people's confidence. People's confidence, when you don't speak English as your first language, it can put a barrier in front of you, but it doesn't have to be a barrier. You have to put in your all, you have to put in the strength and earn that confidence in yourself, because that's the only thing that's going to help us move forward. Learning to trust ourselves, to believe in who we are, and to be proud of where we come from. It's super important, because if not, we're going to leave it there. And that's what I've set aside. I can share my personal experience. Iris knows me. At the University of New Mexico, one of the things I've always been involved in, I started as a coordinator, and now I'm the director of the entire student support program for engineering students. It's a source of pride for me, but it wasn't easy. How did I do it? I did it by trusting in myself. I was always proud of who I was. If someone didn't understand me, I'd tell them, do you want me to repeat it? No. I didn't care if someone asked me to repeat myself because they didn't understand me. It didn't bother me. I'll repeat it 10 times if they want. But the other thing is to always be on the lookout for opportunities. Doors open. And sometimes you don't even realize that the door has already opened. And you have to take the opportunities that come your way. We're going to implement a new computing system at the university. Who wants to do the budgets for that program? Me. Who wants to do this? Me. I was always willing to help the program, even if it was for free, by the way, voluntarily, many times. And that opened many doors for me, because who was the person ready to get the program? The job of director now? I had everything. It's practically everything. And I was supporting the program in all its areas. So I had a lot of experience over 16 years. So I was a viable option for the position. So sometimes don't close the doors and don't let language be a barrier. And also the people who maybe come and are not used to it. Always give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the other person has never had a foreigner in front of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elsa. Wow, yes, always me. Participate. Well, now we give it to Luis, please. Luis, if you can share your personal journey and the challenges you faced.
Yes, look, for me, the biggest challenge has been the imposter syndrome, which is something we don't talk about enough, but sometimes when you're the only person who speaks Spanish, who maybe has an accent when speaking, that starts to build up, and you begin to doubt yourself, your ability to contribute in class, to contribute to a project, to contribute at work. And the truth is that we all experience this. It's important to talk about this. It's important to acknowledge it. But as Elsa said, we have to trust in our abilities, because if we've come this far, it's for a reason. It's not because it happened magically. It's because we have worked very hard to get to where we are now, and remembering that every day helps to mitigate a little of that imposter syndrome and recognize that it is completely normal, but that one should not doubt everything that one has achieved until today and what one is going to achieve, because one must continue dreaming, one must continue thinking big. Navigating that can be a bit difficult. And you also need to surround yourself with a group of friends to create a social network if you don't already have one.
Thank you, Luis. Now, Marlene, could you share your experience with us?
Yes, I wrote down 2 things. First, it was about understanding how to find opportunities. There are some people who are already here in this webinar Sure, and they are understanding and they are going and they have already heard about ANS. There are so many people who don't have that connection. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to look. And if there wasn't someone, if I hadn't had someone to help me when I was studying undergrad, I would have never found ANS, ASME, SWE, LASA, SHEP, all these opportunities and communities that already exist. And you just have to get into those communities and see those opportunities and not see it as a bad thing. If there aren't that many Hispanics, you know, you still have to get in there, have that opportunity, understand what it takes, and sometimes be the first for you to be the first to step in and then have others come in behind you. But you have to be comfortable being a part of all the communities that already exist. The second thing I also wrote down, which I already mentioned, is to be the first. It's a bit difficult in our Hispanic community to be the only one doing something different. We always look for friends, for people, for family. We want to be part of a community. And that's how it has been my whole life. So being the first living in Texas, studying nuclear engineering is not something that my parents, my friends, my family, nobody wanted me to do. Outside of the world, outside of New York, away from family where everyone knows me, I was all alone out there, and they were always really worried about me. But I had to take that opportunity, so I had to be there, and I had to work hard through all my studies to be where I am in my career right now. So those are the two things that I think have always been strong for me. I always had the support of my family and my friends too, back in New York, but I was far away. And I always had in my mind, I relied on them everything. I held on to that love and affection from my family, from my friends. And it was the only thing that kept me there, away.
That's right. Like being far away, the distance too. It's an important factor. Thank you, Marlene. Now, Shirley, could you tell us about your experience?
Yes, I think I would like to make a distinction because when we talk about first generation, there are first generation immigrants, immigrant students, first generation here in the United States, and non-traditional first generation students, which is how I identify. And it's with everything I'm going to say now. For me, I arrived here in the United States when I was 21 years old, and English was the first challenge. The culture was different. I had to unlearn a lot of things from Hispanic culture, which I think most of us can recognize as things we had to unlearn. The imposter syndrome, the mental cost that comes with being the first in so many things, the economic cost as well. But how? I don't know. Those challenges is that I've had so many things that now looking back at the question, I don't know how I got through them. I think what I wanted to do was always on my mind. So, and sometimes, well, I don't know if this happens to some of you, but sometimes you just feel like crying or even cry. I clearly remember one of the biggest challenges I had to face is that I never went to school to learn English. Everything I know is from music. Music is one of the best inventions in the universe. And as Elsa said, if they didn't understand me or if they laughed at me, I didn't care. My goal then was to learn. My goal wasn't, oh, how embarrassing. No, I had to learn no matter what. And now, and I remember that when I arrived, or sometimes I didn't understand a problem that I had to solve, I cried because I read that 5 or 6 times. And meanwhile, I imagine that it has happened to you the more I advance. In school, the problems get bigger. And when the problems get bigger, there are more sentences in the problem. So reading isn't something I'm passionate about. That's why I chose numbers. That doesn't depend on anyone. And well, that's it. I don't think I've mentioned it to anyone, but at some point while living here in the United States, I lived on the street. Then I didn't have time, sometimes not even to cry. Everything was, no, you have to keep going, keep going, keep going. The perseverance that my family instilled in me, the resilience that my family also instilled in me, I think all of that helped me. Not seeing the problems and not looking for solutions, which is also part of what my family taught me.
Oh, no. Well, thank you all so much for sharing resilience, right? That's the topic here, right? What we bring here as Hispanics in the United States. And well, I would like to move on. We've been talking, I've heard this topic of family support. How has it been fundamental for success or failure? Also, from first generation students, professionals, but let's focus on the positive. And I would like to know what recommendations or opportunities for improvement you think could be implemented in our families and communities to strengthen the support we receive, whether it's students or professionals in STEM in this industry. Let's start with Elsa.
Okay. One of the things I wanted to mention is that family is essential. Thank you, Marilyn. Shirley. Family support is number one, especially for Hispanic students. Now that I recruit students to come to the university, that's now part of our functions. And when I learned at the University of Idaho, I worked in the CAMP program, which stands for the College Assistance Migrant Program. One of the things I observed that was super important was that we had to convince the parents to support their kids in going to school because the parents' opinion was really important. My dad did everything he could to help me reach my goals. My dream was to come here, and my whole family was back in Ecuador. And I was practically alone here, 100%. And that also forged my strength to keep moving forward. And that's what I see. The kids who have family support, I tell many of them that they are very lucky to have their parents here. Also, don't let that happen. Don't let them sometimes tell you to unlearn the culture. No, that we have to maintain the culture. I disagree a little on that because we have to have that connection that family has, because as Hispanics, family is number one. So we have to maintain that 100% because they will be our greatest support to keep moving forward. And now as recruiters on the other side, the academic places that are recruiting students, Hispanics, they need to learn to work with the family, not just with the student we want to recruit. The family is super important, that parents know how important it is to do a state financial aid application for parents to know the resources that exist so that students can move forward. And how important is family for Hispanic students? It's number one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elsa, now we're going to Luisa.
Elsa, now we're going to Luis. I agree with everything Elsa says, and I would like to add the importance of communicating well with families because unfortunately many of the previous generations grew up watching The Simpsons, so their understanding of the world is based on The Simpsons, on Homer Simpson. There's a plant and a fish with 3 eyes and all that. So it's a lack of information and education that creates fear. When a student, a boy or a girl tells their dad, I'm interested in something nuclear. No, that's super dangerous. You can't study that. And we need to combat that. We need to take a proactive plan to communicate with our community the importance of nuclear energy, how safe it is, and also in that way help to promote careers, as Elsa mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. Marilyn, I believe you wanted to share your opinion on this matter, didn't you?
Yes, I'm thinking about how my parents helped me because I remember when I was a kid, my dad loved math, but he wasn't like, like calculators, like, right? Just always thinking about money. Since we were first generation here, he was always worried about how much money we had, how we had to balance things, the checks. He didn't speak English well, so I always wrote the numbers in English on the checks to pay for everything. And my mom always loved helping us study when we were kids. So they saw how much it was. Or they gave me the vision of how much I was worth, how much I should invest in my education, and how much dedication I should have. And well, when I was born, when I started my undergrad, my mom, I remember hearing her once. She was talking with my relatives, with my family from Ecuador, and she didn't really know what I was studying. So they told Marilyn she's studying business management. No, it wasn't. She only understood that I was studying something related to math. Something like that was it in my mom's mind. That's how it was. I didn't understand much about engineering. There wasn't, anyone in my family who were like mechanical engineers or nuclear engineers. There wasn't, how to explain all of that. But with me achieving and getting into all of that world, I am myself. I made them understand myself. Every time I go back to New York and talk to them, I educate them on what I'm doing and what difference it's making. And they have the opportunity to understand more later and also tell their friends, family, and everyone and help them understand what exactly I'm doing with my career. Because it's not that easy and straightforward to explain what nuclear engineering really is. From the panelists right here, it's so different what you can do inside nuclear engineering. So it's something that even for a person who is from here speaks and has so many stories about engineering, nuclear engineering is also difficult. And as Luis says, thank you, people already have their own vision of what it is. So when you talk to them, you also have to steer the conversation a bit and help them understand even a little more. So it takes more effort. But yes, for me, it was always my family. They helped me get into this career, but now I help them understand what nuclear engineering really is.
No. Well, thank you very much, Marilyn. Now, let's go to Shirley, if you can share your story with us.
Yes. First, a clarification. At no point have I said that we need to unlearn Hispanic culture. Please, I haven't mentioned that. I have mentioned that you have to unlearn the negative things of Hispanic culture. Well, I'm going to give the other side. I believe that the panelists have been fortunate to be supported by their families, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case for mine. There are many members of my family who, what are you going to study for? You have to work. You have to make money. A lot of things. So based on that, I believe that if any of your family members or your family in general doesn't support you, you always have to remember it's not about how you start, but how you finish. Keep your eyes on the goal. At this point in my life, one of the things my family has taught me is not having expectations, for example. Unless you give me an expectation, I don't have an expectation for that very reason. And I am grateful. And I think I have two people I need to be proud of. When I was 10 years old and when I'm about to die, those are the only two people I will always keep. I will try to enlighten. I will try to advise, to love, to support. But I repeat, if any of the panelists or someone in their environment doesn't have that family support, it's not okay, but you have to learn to deal with it, right? So, moving forward.
As we say, well said, let's move forward. That's right. And that's why we're here today. Well, I would like to move the conversation forward, and now I would like to, Elsa, ask some questions since she has a lot of knowledge about how to help students. And I would like to know, Elsa, from your experience as the Student Success Director at the University of New Mexico, what opportunities exist for students, whether they are Spanish speaking or even international students, in the area of STEM, whether it's scholarships or other resources?
Well, basically, the United States is full of opportunities. As Marilyn said, as Shirley also mentioned, and Luis, students need to learn to see the opportunities that exist simply with one of the counselors in their schools, in their high schools. They need to see that opportunities exist. One of the most important things that students don't know, and when I was recruiting students for the University of Idaho to come study, migrant students, was that their parents, they are first generation students, almost all of them. All the kids I worked with, their parents worked in the fields and didn't want the kids to go to work. They didn't want the kids to go out because they were an extra hand to work in the fields. So how did you recruit them and how did you change that mindset? I would ask them, what do you want for the kids? I would ask them, do you want to wake up every day doing what you're doing or do something you've always dreamed of, something that can contribute to the future of society? And the kids would say, no, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to do this. But it was practically impossible. And one of the resources I've seen is one of the most important, especially for migrant students. If the parents or the kids work in the fields for more than 75 days a year, they can apply for a scholarship called the CAMP scholarship, College Assistance Migrant Program, the CAMP scholarship, like CAMP. That scholarship covers 100% of the first year of college, but not all universities have it. The University of Idaho has, Boise State University has, the University of New Mexico has. They can look for which universities in the country have the CAMP program. It's very good and it offers student check-in. Also the societies, the Hispanic societies of engineering and science. For example, the Society of Hispanic Professionals in Engineering, SHIP. I'm sure Shirley, Marilyn, and Luis, they know them. At SHIP, Elsa. Yes, I gave a list of resources to Iris so that Ira can share later. ELSA has scholarships for Hispanic students. They have scholarships for students who want to go to college in these STEM areas, as Zaira was saying, or also scholarships for students who want to go to, who are going from high school to college or to the university where they want to pursue their doctorates, their careers. The Society of Women in Engineering also has scholarships for students who are graduating from high school, but there's another one that's really good. And I know that have many scholarships for undergraduate students. It's called Great Minds in STEM. I listed all of those. It's the CAMP program, Great Minds in STEM, SHIP, SWE, and many local organizations. I have, for example, in Albuquerque, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce offers a scholarship for students, and the students didn't even know it existed. The National Foundation of the Local Foundation of New Mexico, for example, for engineers, has scholarships only for students who are going to universities here in New Mexico. Many states offer incredible scholarships, like, for example, there's the lottery scholarship in the state of New Mexico, which pays 100% of the tuition starting from the second semester for 7 semesters free. And the important requirement, they have to graduate from a high school in New Mexico. I have many people, I don't want to promote, but many people who move from Arizona and move from other states, even from other countries, and come to graduate in the state of New Mexico to get their degree. And they have to attend a university in New Mexico in order to go to college. Exactly this weekend, I was with a girl from Korea who came to do her university. She came to do her last year of high school here in Albuquerque, and she graduated, and now she's going to college for free. I mean, those opportunities exist, but there are also programs, for example, the program. I came to the University of Idaho, and I had the International Resources Program that offered a scholarship that practically covered 2/3 of the entire tuition, so to speak. So there are opportunities at all universities. As Marilyn also said, scholarships, you can get them. And for graduate studies, there are even better scholarships when you specialize in a certain area. That's all. And Iris has my information. If anyone has questions about FAFSA, the state financial aid application, which the government also provides scholarships for students, especially if they were born here. And it doesn't matter the immigration status of the parents. The immigration status would be, well, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. In fact, we're going to show you in just a moment before we finish. In the webinar, all the links for access and on the registration page for this webinar, you will also find a PowerPoint presentation with all the information and links, including links to those types of scholarships that you might find there. Now we're going to move on to the question and answer part, and we see that the first question would be for everyone. He says, what aspects of your Hispanic culture have you taken care of? I imagine it's about including the people around you who are not from your country. I don't know who wants to start. Here are the volunteers. Okay, Luis, go ahead.
Just in case you can't tell by my accent, I was born in Colombia, and coffee is essential in Colombia. For me, it has been very important to bring that part of the culture because it's something that unites us a lot. In certain parts of the country, including Idaho, diversity is not very common. So sometimes you have to look for an aspect that is easy to understand, which is easy to accept, so to speak. And coffee has been a conversation starter. Incredible, because we talk about culture, about the importance in our countries, about the amount of coffee that is produced. And aside from everything that a coffee represents for our families, sharing a coffee with family in the morning, all of that helps to commenting on conversations about our culture, about our families, about what we like to do. And for me, it has been very important, especially now in my home.
Well, we're absolutely looking forward to trying that delicious and aromatic coffee experience, right? It's going to be quite an experience, right? Now, Elsa?
One of the things is the food, specifically more than anything, the food and having family events with Hispanic students. That's what we're trying to do as much as possible with the students. I have a student organization that focuses on engineering and sciences who study, they study engineering and sciences, but they are Hispanic. And what we do are meals. With them, meals for gatherings and music. Music is super important to keep the roots alive. And that fills me up. Also, because, I married a person from a completely different culture. My husbands are from the Middle East, but I keep my girls. They know their Hispanic culture. They are super proud to be Hispanic. And music and food, I would say, have been number one in keeping it alive, bringing our roots back, so to speak. And they go to Ecuador and they act like they've been there their whole lives. They dance, they sing. It's all the same. It's incredible how that is. And we have to keep it alive as much as we can.
Thank you.
I can continue. For me, I think what I try to include is collaboration. I was raised by my grandparents and they had 7 children and they raised most of our cousins. And then the house was a bustle, a huge chaos. So to try to maintain harmony, we all had to collaborate, we had to think. And since we didn't have resources either, my family and culture taught me to find where there was none. For example, my grandfather. My grandfather never went to school. He didn't even finish high school, but he worked as an architect, a bricklayer, a plumber, and an electrician. So he was always looking for something and always looking for a solution. So for me, that's very clear. And my grandmother was very analytical, very resourceful in the kitchen, trying to make the food stretch for everyone. The critical analysis that my grandmother had, I think I have learned a lot from her, and I think that implemented that in all the decisions I make, not just in my professional life.
But also on a personal level, for me, I would say it's a bit difficult. So since I was born in New York, I was surrounded by Hispanic people. I was born among Ecuadorians, Peruvians, Mexicans, people from all over the world. When I moved to Texas to start my master's in nuclear engineering, I had to first understand what they were already, the feelings towards Hispanic people, especially in nuclear engineering. There aren't that many Hispanics. When I was in the lab, there was another Hispanic, a guy from Mexico. And when we spoke Spanish, I noticed that people would look at us, they didn't really like it. So for me, it's like pick your battles. Like there were some opportunities to speak in Spanish, but when I saw that people didn't like it, they were bothered by it. There were other people from Korea, because there are people from the Middle East who have more influence in nuclear engineering, Korea, Japan, China. So for me, it's hard to just put on a good attitude. Culture is ahead of all people. Right now, I also work at VWXT, as Irais mentioned. VWXT is a company that works with the government, and most of the people are not Hispanic. They have to be US citizens to work there. So the Hispanic population is very small. Citizens from here in the United States to work there. So the Hispanic population is very small, first in the whole company. And when the same thing happens, do you see that we're speaking in Spanish or sharing something? It's not For me, I mean, you have to learn when it's the right opportunity to step in and try to educate people about our culture. It's difficult, and you have to understand what the positive and negative things are and understand what is their mindset to your culture. As Elsa already said, it's one. Music, for me, is my favorite. It's about understanding the national music of Ecuador. I don't think anyone in my company is going to like it if I start playing music and turn up the volume high. I don't think they're going to take it well, and they're not going to look at me favorably either. But it's about understanding how I can introduce them a bit to the culture, how I talk to them, how I indicate things. That for me, it's not such a different culture. If you see people from any culture, they love family. They want to be with their family. What? Well, same here. For my culture, it's music, food, it's so cherished. And trying to have a bit of that influence at work. This month of Hispanic heritage, it's one of those months when they're already, expecting, they're looking for something. They want pupusas, tacos, they want some food already, and they're looking for that. And I use that opportunity to try to educate them a bit more that it's not just about that food or that music they hear. I use those opportunities to try to educate people who are not about the culture.
Well, no, thank you very much for sharing. And well, in a moment, we will be showing the slide of this webinar because unfortunately, we have reached the end of this webinar. And first of all, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude, especially to our panelists. And so a special greeting to the people who have been asking us questions. We have Angelica, Salvador, Maria, Chris, and we have Shannon. A greeting to all of you. Norma, thank you very much. I hope I was able to answer your questions in the chat. I invite you to take out your phone and take some pictures. Here we are presenting the slide about us on social media. Photo. And the information about the scholarships, please. Take a picture. That's also very important. We're moving on to the next slide. Here's the financial information slide. Picture, right? Also here. And we have additional resources. We have readonatomcollab.com. Diagonal. This is where you will be able to find all those resources. Please take a photo here so you can connect with Shirley. And we also have the other panelists here. If you send us your information, we will add it to the slide so you can get in touch also with you. And I thank all of you for staying until the end of this program, this panel with us. Thank you once again to our panelists and the audience for their active participation and curiosity as it reflects the commitment we all have to drive the advancement of the energy sector. You are part of the nuclear renaissance, an era where innovation and inclusion are at the heart of our mission, and together we can build a safer and more sustainable future. And well, we've already displayed the resources on the screen. The resources will be in the link here where you registered. So please don't forget to come back to this page and access those resources. Thank you in advance for your participation. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Nice to meet you.